Syracuse is a 1 seed 30 years ago, lost its second game of the tournament, trying to avoid that same fate against Gonzaga in the first game Sunday. Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz. Glad to be with you on the previews presented by State Farm. Glad to be alongside CBS College Sports' Steve Lappas. Of course, CBSSports.com's Gary Parrish. And Steve, they got by Vermont, as you'd expect, in the 116 game without the services of Arenze Onuaku. If he cannot go against against Gonzaga, and he's doubtful, how does the game plan have to change going against the Bulldogs?
Well, that's a little bit different because the Bulldogs have a pretty good inside game with Sacre and Elias Harris. So that makes it a little bit tougher. And if Rick Jackson is out there by himself, because Chris Joseph is a good player who takes on Onuaku's place, but he's not the same kind of player. He's not a power inside player. He's more of a combination forward. So they're going to have to get a little bit more rebounding from everybody if they're going to be without Onuaku again.
Gary, one of the things, though, that Jim Boeheim said after the game against Vermont was that he was really happy with the defensive play of his team. Where may they get pushed defensively by this Gonzaga offense?
Well, Gonzaga can go, it all starts with Matt Bolden. He's a guy that can do a lot of different things. He can set up other players. He can make shots for himself. He's a little bit of a do-everything guy. So when you go into this, and if you're Boeheim, the concern, you can talk about how great it was against Vermont, that you had defense and you were able to keep a gap. But the truth is, you're supposed to do that no matter what. When you get into this second round, this is where teams can be beat. And when you go into it shorthanded, it's tough.
He did get a lot out of Wesley Johnson, though, Coach. What type of matchup is he for Mark Few's squad?
Well, he's a very tough matchup because he's got bigger size. He's a pretty big three-man. So he's going to be a tough matchup for whether it's going to be Bolden or Stephen Gray. Probably Stephen Gray who's going to be guarding him. So in that regard, he can be tough. And he's had an unbelievable season. Big East Player of the Year as a transfer from Iowa State. I'll tell you, Boeheim, he knows how to stack them up. There's no doubt.
With Wesley Johnson, I mean, this is where he's got to step up and be a star. He's a guy who's been a National Player of the Year candidate all year long, even though he never really got in the conversation with John Wall and Evan Turner, but probably most people's three. Hasn't been consistent down the stretch. Had some good moments, but not consistently good moments. He's got to be good in this game.
Got to lead him over Gonzaga. Does he do it? Do they move on?
I think so. I mean, their body of work is that where losing Arenze is not like losing Robbie Hummel at Purdue. It's not good, but it's not a death knell. I think they'll be okay.
What about you, Steve?
I think they move on too. That zone is going to be tough. And you know, one thing about Gonzaga, not a whole lot of shooters. A couple of guys, but not a whole lot.
And let's also not forget the game's being played in Buffalo, so it's like a home game for Syracuse being there in Western New York. 12:10 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Of course, you can see it on March Madness on demand as well. Steve Lappas and Gary Parrish. I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.